Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Chris here. Just finished up a hangout with my boys over at Break the Apocalypse, shouting those guys out. Go check them out on Patreon at Break the Apocalypse. It's a great show. You'll enjoy it. I promise you'll have a good time. It's always a good time chopping it up and hanging out with those guys and everybody that was on there with us. Jude, Drew, Yari, Marquise, Johns, Fat 316. It was good hanging out with everybody that was there. Of course, John, Shaheen, and B Show. It was always good. It's always good seeing those guys hanging out with them. So I want to start off shouting them out. I also want to start off this video with a bit of sad news. And this is about Jason David Frank. Apparently, he has passed away at 49 years old. For those who know, and there's a lot of us who do know, he was the Green Ranger on Power Rangers, then became the White Ranger. Um, it's just, for a lot of people, he was the Power Ranger that comes up when everybody remembers that show. It's Tommy was the one that came up. So, Jason David Frank, may you rest in peace and may the power protect you. All right. Now that I've gotten that horrible part out of the way, I wanted to do this video and touch on a couple things about the baseball off season, in particular with the Baltimore Orioles, my hometown team, who I root for no matter what. I want to talk about some things that I would like to see them do this off season, just based off of what I've seen and what I would like, just based on what's going on. The first thing I want to talk about, the first guy I would like to see them go after, is a need. They have a couple needs. They need a left-handed power bat, a backup first baseman, and slash DH help, and they need some pitching. So those are the areas of need that I see. There's one area of like want that I would love to see them do, just to get one of these two guys, just because it'd be fun, awesome to have them here, but they're not a necessity. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit on the needs. The need of a left-handed power bat in the lineup, first baseman, DH type. Now this guy can also play all three outfield positions as well as be a first baseman, as well as he bats lefty and he's got power in his bat. This guy just got non-tendered by the LA Dodgers, and that's Cody Bellinger. And I know what you're thinking. Like, Cody Bellinger stunk last year and blah, blah, blah. He batted like 1 something and he was trash. And you'd be right. But if you take a look at his numbers, which I am pulling up right now on Baseball Reference, if you look at his numbers up until last year, he was fairly solid. He hit 19 home runs last season, so he still has pop in his bat. And in Camden yards, that power just would be there. Just a couple of years ago, not even 3 years ago, he hit 47 home runs. Was the NL MVP, an All-Star, Gold Glover, and Silver Slugger. So he's not too far from that, and he's only going to be 27 years old. So that's a guy I would bring in, and he would be a benefit to our lineup. He could back up at first base or work on first base with Ryan Mountcastle. He can back up at all three outfield positions so you can get more rest for Austin Hayes and keep him healthy, and Cedric Mullins, and you can get him and McKenna in the rotation more often, and Santander, give him more DH at bats at DH and stuff like that. And he's an upgrade in the outfield. He's a better fielder than Santander, and that right there that benefits the ball club. So that's what I'm looking at there. All right. So that's the first need guy. Need met. And he meets three needs right off the bat. Power bat, lefty bat, plays first base, and can DH a little bit. So he meets those metrics right there. The other two guys are of need are starting pitchers. Now, we may only need one starting pitcher, but I'm looking at two guys, and that's Carlos Rodon and Kodai Senga, the Japanese pitcher. Now, Carlos Rodon is going to be expensive. He's not going to come cheap. He's just about to turn 30, but he's worth it. I think if you give him the right deal, he'll be worth it. And he's a guy I would bring in, and he would be a guy that I'd bring in. Career 3.6 ERA. Whip of 1.239. Last year, he had an ERA of, looking at everything here, where is it? 2.88, 14-8, 1-loss record. So he's a guy that I would bring in just because he was that good. Cy Young candidate, and he can pitch his ass off. Kodai Senga, again, the guy looks like a stud. He's got like 4 or 5 pitches in his arsenal, and that's a weapon in your rotation. He doesn't have to come here and be an ace. Kodai Senga, let's look at his numbers from the Nippon League last year. 11-6, so with a 1.94 ERA. Had 144 innings pitched, 103 hits given up, strikeouts. Looking at here. He doesn't have a high strikeout per 9, but that's no big deal. He can still get the job done. So that's the guy I'm looking at here. As far as his career, that's a guy I would go for. And I'd bring him in, and I think he'd be good for a ball club. Now, with him, his agent saying he wants to play in a big market with a chance to win. I think with how good this ball club was last year, that we can get him if the deal's right, if the money's right. So there's the thing with him. So those are the pieces that I think we could get that could help our ball club as far as need positions. Now, for want position, everybody's talking about shortstop. I don't think we need one. I think that Jorge Mateo is fine at short. We've got Joey Ortiz, Jordan Westberg, and Gunnar Henderson all ready to come up, and Gunnar Henderson's already here. He's ready to go, and Jordan Westberg and Joey Ortiz are not far behind. So I don't think we need a shortstop. I don't think it's a need position. But I think what they can do is just to get one of these guys, to give one of those guys a little bit more time seasoning, because I think Gunnar Henderson's going to be a third baseman. So I think he's going to be our third baseman. I think that's kind of set in stone. I think he's going to play third. So you bring in either Dansby Swanson or Trey Turner. Darby Swanson may be one of his underrated shortstops in the game. He's good in the field and he's good with his bat. Trey Turner, good in the field, good with his bat, hell on the base paths. So he gives you stolen bases on top of being good at everything else. So that's what I'm looking at with him. So that's what I'm looking at with those two. But those are my guys. No, I don't want Carlos Correa. I don't want a guy whose glove isn't as solid in my lineup. I just don't. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. I want to touch a little bit on the AEW pay per view from last night as well. Um, these shows are way too long, man. They got to cut it down a little bit. Overall, I thought the show was good. For me, the best match on the card was, and I hate to say this because I can't stand these guys, but it was the Elite versus Death Triangle. It was a really good match. You could tell that the time off did Kenny Omega good, and it did the Young Bucks good, and they looked refreshed. They looked like they were rested, they looked refreshed, and Kenny looked like he looked good out there for the first time since he's been here in America, in my opinion. Uh, Obviously, the big question mark was whether or not how Paige would look in her match with Britt Baker. Britt Baker, to her credit, and I give that girl a ton of shit. I'm not a fan of hers. She did her damnedest to protect Paige, Soraya, and make that match good. So make that match flow. She protected her. She did a good job of it. And my hat's off to her for doing that. Because you could tell that there was a ton of ring rust there with Soraya. She hadn't been in the ring in a long time. You could see the ring rust. It was there all clear as day. She wasn't comfortable doing a lot of stuff. And Britt Baker, you could see Britt Baker working her through it. So kudos to her for that. Obviously, MJF, to the shock of no one, beat Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title. Good match. That's all I got to say about that. Long overdue. I'm happy for MJF. He should have been the champ. It was a perfect move. Same goes for Jamie Hayter beating Tony Storm. They should have pulled the trigger on that when they put the belt on Tony Storm. Tony Storm, I'm not a fan of at all. I'm glad they took the belt off her. Maybe now Jamie Hayter can break away from Britt Baker and they can start that feud and have a feud for the title. But Jamie Hayter was the person everybody was behind then, and they should have kind of pulled the trigger on that. And like that's a thing where luckily she was still over enough that she got a good reaction when she won the title. The thing in the wrestling business is you only get one chance to pull the trigger on something like that to make it work. And if you don't pull it at the right time, you pull it too late, you can fuck up that person's momentum. They already did it with Thunder Rosa when they didn't have her beat Britt Baker when she should have, and they had her win it like the next week. It was like the moment had already slipped by. The moment is there, and you get one shot to make it count. If you don't make it count, that's on you. AEW with MJF, they got it right. With Jamie Hayter, they fixed the fuck up that they shouldn't have made in the first place. Worst match on this card. Obviously, it's Jade Cargill and Nyla Rose. Not because of Nyla Rose. Jade Cargill's getting exposed the more and more she's in the ring. The more of these fucking 5-minute matches, squash matches she has, the more it's exposed that she's not fucking good. She's not. She's not improving. She hasn't improved. She's not getting better. But these 5-minute matches she's having, being a title holder, are fucking killing her. She looks like $1,000,000. She looks fan-fucking-tastic. She looks like a star. She wrestles like shit. She's not good enough to be holding a title. They need to end this undefeated streak, take this belt off her, put it on someone else that can carry it and be a fucking secondary champion, and let her evolve and get better away from the fucking spotlight, because you're killing this girl's potential. And you need to do it before she pieces out and goes Hollywood, because guess what, motherfuckers? That's coming up soon. sooner than you want to admit. So those are my thoughts on all of that. I'm not going to spend too much time on the AEW thing because I can't remember everything that happened. It was a long night watching that or checking that out. It was a long show, and I wasn't going to spend like all night like covering it. It's too much. Anyway, that's all I've got for the day. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving coming up this Thursday. Speaking of which, coming up this weekend, if they get here on time, I have some new hot sauces coming. I will be doing a taste test on those, so stay tuned. Anyway, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Peace.